You don't have the right to tear my check. This is the limit to your disrespect.
This is fake, and I have every right to tear the check since it's fake. This is a bank, not somewhere you walk into and fool people.
This is not the first time someone walks in here with a fake check.
Raymond was 53 years old, and he had been a bank teller at Harfield Community Bank for going on 12 years. 12 years at the same branch, behind the same counter, with the same expression on his face, which was somewhere between bored and bothered, depending on the day. Now, Raymond was not always this way. The older staff would tell you that if you caught them at the right moment. They would say quietly over lunch or in the break room that Raymond used to be decent when he first came in. Friendly enough, did his job. But somewhere around year 3 or 4, something changed. Maybe it was the promotions he kept not getting. Maybe it was watching people younger than him move into management positions while he stayed right where he was. Maybe it was just that nobody had ever truly held him accountable for anything. And when that goes on long enough, a certain kind of person starts to believe that their behavior is untouchable. Whatever the reason, Raymond had become someone the customers dreaded. His counter was right in the center of the floor. Counter 4. And if you were a regular at Harfield Community Bank, you knew something without anyone ever having to tell you. You knew to avoid counter 4. You would walk in, scan the windows, and if any other counter was free, anyone at all, you would go there. You would wait 15 extra minutes in a longer line before you would willingly walk up to Raymond's window. There were people who had been banking at that branch for years and had genuinely never been served by him, purely through careful navigation. Because Raymond had a way about him, a specific, particular way of looking at you when you approached his counter, like you were an interruption, like you had walked up in the middle of something important. Even when he had clearly been doing absolutely nothing. He would look up at you over the rim of his glasses, slow, almost theatrical, and his expression said it all without him opening his mouth. It said, "Really? You? Right now?" And then he would start with the questions, not helpful questions, not the kind of questions that moved the transaction forward. Raymond's questions were designed for one thing: to make you feel like a suspect, to make you feel like you had walked up to that counter carrying something you shouldn't have, even if all you came in with was a standard form and a smile. Where did you get this? How long have you had this account? Who told you this was the right document? Are you certain this belongs to you? His colleagues had watched him do this for years. A woman named Adaize, who worked the counter 2 positions down, had gone to the manager about it once, about 2 years in. She had sat down, chosen her words carefully, and said that she had noticed Raymond could be quite difficult with certain customers, particularly certain types of customers. The manager at the time had listened, nodded, said he would look into it, and then nothing happened. Raymond stayed at counter 4. The complaints kept coming in. The customers kept avoiding him. And the years kept rolling by. Raymond arrived at work the way he always did, about 10 minutes before his shift started. Not because he was dedicated, but because he liked to get to the break room coffee before everyone else touched it. He had opinions about how other people made coffee that he voiced loudly and regularly. He settled into his chair, straightened his badge, rolled his neck, and prepared himself for what he assumed would be another unremarkable day. He was wrong. At 8:45, before the branch had even opened its doors to the public, the branch manager called a mandatory all-staff meeting. Everyone was required to attend. Tellers, customer service staff, the loan officers, the security personnel, all of them, filing into the back conference room and finding seats. The branch manager's name was Mr. Desmond Fowler. He was not a loud man. He was the kind of manager who was calm in a way that could go either direction depending on the situation. Calm and reassuring, or calm and terrifying. That morning, people were not entirely sure which one they were about to get. He stood at the front of the room, looked around, and got straight into it. He told them that as of the previous Friday, Harfield Community Bank had been acquired A private investment group had completed the purchase of the branch and 2 other locations in the region. The new ownership would be sending a representative to conduct a full operational review of all 3 branches. That review would cover customer service standards, compliance records, staff conduct, everything. The room changed when he said that. You could feel it. People sitting up. People exchanging looks. The energy shifting from half-awake Tuesday morning into something sharper. Raymond, in the back, crossed his arms and told himself not to be concerned. Acquisitions happened. New ownership came in, talked about changes, and then mostly things stayed the same. He was not worried. But then Mr. Fowler said something that changed the texture of the room entirely. He said he wanted to address something before the inspection happened. He said he had been reviewing the branch's customer satisfaction records and that there were names appearing consistently in the complaint logs. He was not going to read the full list, but he wanted the relevant people to know that he was aware and that the new ownership would also be made aware. He read 2 names. Raymond's was one of them. The room went very quiet. The kind of quiet that is not really quiet at all because it is full of people carefully controlling their reactions. A Diaz near the front stared straight ahead. A younger teller named Kofi, who had been at the branch about 8 months, looked down at the table. Raymond, in the back, felt heat crawl up from his collar to his ears. His jaw tightened. He said nothing, but the heat stayed there. Mr. Fowler closed by telling the staff that when the new owner came through those doors, every single interaction would matter, every customer would matter. He needed everyone at their best. He looked around the room for questions, got none, and sent everyone back to work. The morning that followed was, on the surface, unremarkable. The branch opened, customers came in. Raymond was quieter than usual, more measured. The mention of his name in that meeting was still sitting in his chest like something he could not quite digest, and it was making him careful in a way he was not normally careful. Adaiza noticed. She watched him from her counter a few times and thought that maybe, just maybe, that morning meeting had finally gotten through to him. Maybe this was the thing that would actually change something. The morning moved along. Raymond processed a few transactions without issue. He was not warm, but he was not hostile. Almost professional. And then, a little after 11, the front doors opened and a young woman walked in. Her name was Zara Mensah. She was 32 years old, a black woman. She was dressed simply and neatly, dark trousers, a light jacket, her hair natural and pulled back. She moved through the doors with a calm and unhurried energy, the kind that comes from a person who knows exactly what they came to do and has no reason to rush. She joined the queue. The counters available. Adiez's window was mid-transaction. Counter 2 was handling someone with a long query. Counter 4, Raymond's counter, one was open. Zara stepped up to counter 4. Raymond looked up. That look. That specific practice look that every regular customer at that branch knew. The slow appraisal, the slight press of the lips. "Good morning," he said. His tone was the performance of politeness. The correct words with none of the correct feeling behind them. "Good morning," Zara said. She placed her bag on the counter ledge. "I'd like to process a check deposit, please." She took the check from her bag and placed it on the counter. Raymond picked it up. He looked at it. His eyes moved across it, and then there was a pause. That loaded, deliberate pause. He set it back down and looked at her. "Where did this come from?" Zara blinked just slightly. "Excuse me?" "The check. Where did it come from? Who issued it?" "It was issued by Callaway Group," she said. "My business completed a contract for them. That is the payment. The payer details are on the check, the account number, all of it." He picked it up again, turned it over, set it back down. Is there a problem?" Zara asked. Still calm, still even. "I am looking at it," he said. "Of course. A beat of quiet. I will need 2 forms of ID." She produced them without hesitation. "Driver's license," Her business account card, with the account number matching her deposit details. Raymond looked at both, for longer than necessary, then at the check again, then back at her. This is a considerable amount, he said. It is, she agreed. And this is a business account? Yes, my business account. It has been with this branch for 3 years. The details are in your system. I am aware of how the system works, he said. There it was, that specific edge, that flicker of condescension dressed up in formal language. Zara noticed it. She held her expression steady. Then is there anything preventing you from running the check through your verification system right now? He moved both pieces of ID and the check to his side of the counter. He was going to need to run a secondary check, he said. That is fine. How long does that take? Depends, he said. On what? He looked at her. On what we find. From counter 3, Adaize had finished with her previous customer. She had looked over at the exact moment Raymond said that. She knew that tone. She had heard that tone for 2 years. Her stomach tightened. A minute passed. Raymond was typing at his keyboard with the slow, deliberate energy of a man who wanted you to feel how much time he controlled. He had not scanned the check. He had not touched the verification system. Has the verification come back? Zara asked. I am processing it. You have not scanned it yet, she said. Simply. Factually. Raymond looked up. How would you know what I have or have not done? Because the scanner is on your counter and I can see from here that you have not used it. His jaw tightened. He picked up the check again and held it up as if he were examining it against the light. This does not look right to me. What specifically does not look right? The formatting. The formatting is standard. It was issued by a registered company through a licensed business account. If you scan it, the system will confirm that in seconds. Ma'am, he said, leaning slightly toward the glass. I have been doing this job for 12 years. I know what a legitimate check looks like. Then you will be able to confirm this one is legitimate when you scan it. There was a pause. Something shifted in his face. The thin layer of managed civility cracked, just a fraction. I am going to be straightforward with you, he said, lowering his voice but not enough that the people nearby couldn't hear every word. We see a lot of these, people coming in with documents that look official, figures that do not add up. We have a responsibility to protect this bank. Zara was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Are you telling me this check is fraudulent? I am saying we need to verify it properly. Then verify it, scan it, right now. I will process it in the order I see. Either you process it, or you don't, she said. Her voice was quiet and very clear. If you are not going to process it, I would like to speak to your manager. Raymond set the documents to the side. His expression had moved past its usual condescension into something colder. He said he was going to refer the matter to the branch fraud team. That was the protocol for unusual deposits. What makes this deposit unusual? Zara asked. Silence. What makes it unusual? She asked again. He had no answer, because the honest answer was not a professional one. It was not about the formatting. It was not about the figures. It was sitting right behind his teeth, unspoken, but it had been there from the moment she walked up to his window. It was in the questions he had asked her that he had not asked the 2 customers before her. It was in the time he had made her wait while doing nothing. It was in the way he looked at her. It was her. Not the check. Her. From her counter, Daisy quietly picked up her desk phone and called the manager's extension, a young teller named Kwame, who had been at the branch for about 5 months and whose counter was at the far end of the row, had been watching. He took a careful step toward Raymond's station. Raymond, he said low-voiced, maybe we should just get Mr. Fowler down here before this goes further. Stay out of it, Raymond said without turning around. I am just saying, if the check is verified, I said stay out of it, Kwame. On the customer side, a woman who had been waiting in the queue behind Zara spoke up. She said she had been watching the whole thing and the teller hadn't even tried to scan the document. Nobody asked you, Raymond said. From the waiting area, an older man named Mr. Augustine, who had been a customer at Harfield for over 15 years, stood up from his seat with a look on his face that said he had seen enough. Phones were out in the lobby now, not one or two, several. People were recording. A daze came out from behind her counter. She walked to Raymond's station and stood beside Zara on the other side of the glass. Raymond. Stop. Let me call Mr. Fowler. And I am handling this, Priya. You have not scanned the check. I am handling it. And then Raymond did the thing that there was no coming back from. He picked up the check, looked at it one final time with an expression that could only be described as verdict, and tore it clean in half. The sound it made was small, paper tearing, but in that lobby it landed like something much heavier. Someone in the waiting area made a sharp sound. A woman near the door put her hand over her mouth. Mr. Augustine sat back down slowly, staring. There, Raymond said. He placed both halves on the counter. That is what we do with documents we cannot verify. You are welcome to go back to whoever gave you this and get something legitimate. Zara looked at the two halves of her check. She looked at them for a long moment. She did not move. She did not raise her voice. When she finally spoke, it was quiet and precise. You just destroyed a negotiable financial instrument. It was a piece of paper with numbers on it. It was a valid check. In your opinion. In the law's opinion. Kwame at the end of the counter pressed both hands flat on his desk like he needed something solid to hold on to. Adeze, standing beside Zara, turned to Raymond with an expression that was past frustration and well into something else. Raymond, she said, you know what you just did. Raymond ignored her. He reached for his desk phone. I am calling security. This customer is being disruptive. Disruptive, Zara repeated. You are creating a scene. Zara looked at him. I came in to make a deposit. You refused to run verification. You tore my check in half. You accused me of fraud without a single piece of evidence. And now you are calling security? She paused. Is this because I am black? The lobby went silent. Full, complete, weight-bearing silence. The kind that only happens when something true gets said out loud in a room full of people. Raymond's mouth opened. That has nothing to do with anything. You have not scanned one document, she said. You have not run one verification. You made a decision the moment I walked up to your window. I watched you serve the two people before me. You did not ask either of them where they got their deposit from. You scanned their documents and sent them on their way in under 3 minutes each. So I am asking you directly. Tell me what is different about mine. He did not answer. From somewhere in the lobby, a voice said softly, he can't answer that. And then the door at the back of the branch opened and Mr. Desmond Fowler walked out. He had received Adeze's call. He had also received a text from Kwame 30 seconds after. He walked onto the floor and took in the scene in about 5 seconds. Zara, standing at counter 4. Raymond, on the other side. The two halves of a check visible on the counter. Adeze beside Zara. Phones raised around the lobby. The particular quality of silence that tells you something has already gone too far. He straightened his jacket, walked directly to counter 4, and spoke to Zara first. Good morning. I am Desmond Fowler, branch manager. I apologize for whatever has happened here. Could you please tell me what brought you in today? Zara looked at him. I came to deposit a check issued to my business by Callaway Group. Your teller refused to process it, repeatedly suggested it was fraudulent without running any verification, and then tore it in half. Mr. Fowler looked at the counter, at the two pieces of check lying there. He closed his eyes for the briefest second. He turned to Raymond. Is that accurate? The check appeared irregular to me, Raymond said. I was following. Which protocol, Mr. Fowler said, authorizes you to physically destroy a customer's financial document? Raymond said nothing. Which protocol, Raymond? I use my judgment, Raymond said. Your judgment. Mr. Fowler picked up the two halves of the check. He looked at the payer details, the account number, the figures. He set them back down. He turned back to Zara. I want to be fully transparent with you. From what I can see, this document appears to be entirely in order. I am deeply sorry for how you have been treated. I am going to personally oversee the processing of a replacement, and I want to make sure you leave here today with everything handled properly. He paused. I also want to ask you something directly, and I apologize for asking it here. You raised the question of whether this was racially motivated. Is that still your position? It is, Zara said. He provided no explanation for why my documents were treated differently from the customers before me. When I asked him directly, he gave no answer. Raymond made a sound. That is not Raymond. Mr. Fowler's voice was very quiet. The quietness that comes when someone has already made a decision and is no longer interested in debate. Do not speak right now. Raymond went silent. Mr. Fowler turned to face the lobby. The customers. The phones. He spoke clearly. To everyone here, I want to acknowledge that you witnessed something today that is not acceptable in this branch. I am sorry, this will be addressed directly. He looked toward the customer service desk. For anyone who has experienced similar treatment at this branch and would like to formally note it, our team will take your details before you leave. He then looked at Adaeze. Thank you, he said simply. She nodded. He looked at Kwame. He said nothing, but the look was enough. Kwame exhaled slowly. Zara was escorted to a private room where her transaction would be properly handled. Mr. Fowler followed Raymond into the back office and closed the door behind them. He did not sit down right away. He stood at the desk and looked at Raymond for a moment without speaking. Then he said, "We had a meeting this morning." "I know," Raymond said. "In that meeting, I said your name in front of the entire staff. I told you and everyone else that your name is in the complaint records. I told you we had new ownership coming to review this branch. I told you every interaction would matter, I remember. And within 3 hours of that meeting, Raymond, you refused to process a legitimate check. You tore it up in front of the lobby. You dismissed your colleagues when they tried to intervene. You called a calm customer disruptive, and a formal race discrimination concern has been raised against you, on camera, which is currently circulating online." Raymond opened his mouth. "I have been at this branch for 12 years, he said. I have flagged real fraud before. I have protected this bank from losses that nobody else, Raymond. And I have never once been Raymond. Stop talking." He stopped. Mr. Fowler sat down. He said, "I hear you. Your history here is real, and none of it gives you the right to treat a customer the way you treated that woman today. None of it. And I want to be honest with you because I think 12 years earns you honesty. This is not the first complaint, not the 5th, not the 10th. This has been going on for years, and I should have been more direct with you long before today. That is on me. But what happened out there this morning, in front of customers, on camera, on the exact day our new ownership is reviewing this branch, this is where it ends." Raymond's voice, when it came, was quieter than it had been all morning. "What does that mean?" "It means you are suspended effective immediately, pending a formal review. Given the destruction of a customer's document, the conduct on camera, and the discrimination concern, I have to be honest with you. I do not see a straightforward path back from this, but the process will be followed properly. HR will contact you." Raymond sat very still. "I was not thinking about her race," he said. His voice had lost the hard edge it usually carried. Mr. Fowler looked at him for a long moment. "Even if that is true," he said, "what you did today was still wrong on its own. The refusal without basis, the destruction of the document, the dismissal of your colleagues, the security call against a customer who had done nothing wrong. Whether the reason was race or not, those actions are the reason. Do you understand the difference?" Raymond did not answer, but something in his face shifted. Something small and quiet that might have been, in some distant way, the beginning of understanding what 12 years of unchecked behavior had actually cost him. He surrendered his badge on the way out. Back in the private room, Zara's transaction had been completed. Replacement documentation had been arranged for the torn check. A full incident record had been filed. Someone on staff had quietly brought her a glass of water at some point, which she had accepted without comment. When Mr. Fowler came to the room himself, she was preparing to leave. He apologized again. He told her the staff member had been suspended and that the matter would be taken seriously at every level of the organization, including with the new ownership. Zara said she appreciated that. She asked him one thing before she left. She said, "The young man at the far counter, the one who had tried to step in and got shut down, make sure that is noted. And the woman who called you and came out and stood beside me, make sure that is noted too. Not just what went wrong, what went right." Mr. Fowler said it was already on record. She stood at the door for a moment. She said she was not angry at the bank. She was not even particularly angry at Raymond. Anger, she said, does not fix anything. What fixes things is accountability. Real accountability. And making sure the next person who walks through that door is treated like a human being. Then she said something he would think about for a long time after she left. She said, "Fix the culture, not just the incident." And she walked out. By the time the branch closed that evening, the clip that had been recorded in the lobby had been seen by over 60,000 people. The comments were not kind. The new ownership group had already been in contact with Mr. Fowler, had reviewed the incident, and had confirmed their full support for the suspension and any further action that followed. Before he left the building, Kwame was called into the manager's office. Mr. Fowler told him that his attempt to intervene had been noted and would be reflected in his record. He told Adais the same. He told them both that what they had done that morning, speaking up, stepping out from behind the counter, making the call, that kind of thing mattered. It mattered to the customer standing on the other side of the glass, and it mattered to the kind of workplace this branch was going to become going forward. Kwame walked out of that office and stood for a moment in the empty lobby. Quiet now, the counters shut, the chairs stacked, the day finally over. He thought about all the times over the past 8 months he had watched things happen at Counter 4 and looked away, told himself it was not his business, told himself the situation would sort itself out. Today he had said something, and something had actually happened as a result. That was a feeling worth carrying. Now, here is what I want you to take from this story before you go. Raymond Bates did not walk into work that morning planning to lose his job. He woke up, made his coffee, got to his counter early, and told himself the same thing he had been telling himself for 12 years, that he knew his job, that his instincts were reliable, that the people who complained just did not understand how things worked. That is the most dangerous kind of wrong. The kind that has been comfortable for so long it feels like the truth. Because here is what happens when a person is never truly held accountable. They do not stay the same. They get worse. Quietly, slowly, without anyone pulling them back. Until one Tuesday morning they are standing at a counter tearing a document in half in front of a lobby full of witnesses. And they genuinely cannot understand why everyone is looking at them like that. Zara Mensah did not win that morning because she was louder. She did not match his energy. She did not perform outrage for the room. She stayed steady. She stayed clear. She named what was happening with precision, and she let the situation expose itself. That is not weakness. That is something harder than anger. That takes more discipline than anger, and it is far more powerful. The lesson this story carries is not just about one bad employee. It is about what happens in every workplace where the complaints come in, get filed away, and the conversation gets described as addressed. One meeting is not accountability. One mention of a name in a room is not accountability. Accountability is what happens after. It is whether anything changes. It is whether anyone follows through. It is Adaize picking up the phone after 2 years of watching and watching and watching. It is Kwame stepping out from behind his counter even after being told twice to stay out of it. It is a manager walking into a lobby and listening first before reaching for the easier explanation. And it is a woman pausing at the door on her way out and saying something that had nothing to do with herself. Fix the culture, not just the incident, because she understood that what happened to her was not just about her. Customers do not only remember how they were treated, they remember whether anything was done about it. They remember whether the people around them spoke up or looked at the floor. They remember whether the apology felt like something real or just damage control in a nice shirt. A branch can change ownership overnight. A name above the door can be repainted. New slogans can go up on the walls. But the feeling people carry when they leave your building that takes years to build, and it can be undone in the time it takes to tear a piece of paper in half. If you work in a place where you see this happening, speak. You do not have to make a speech. You do not have to confront anyone dramatically. Pick up the phone, take the step, say the thing. Because the person on the other side of that glass is watching, and so is everyone else in the room. And if you have ever been Zara, if you have ever stood at a counter and felt the weight of being assessed before you even opened your mouth, know that staying composed, staying clear, and naming the truth without losing yourself is not you being too calm. It is you being exactly powerful enough. They tore paper, not your power. Thank you for watching. If this story sat with you, if it brought something to mind, drop it in the comments. I read every single one. Subscribe if you want more stories like this, and I will see you in the next one.